Before we get into today's episode, I just want to remind everyone, SBA Today is now available on podcast streaming services. Catch up on all the latest news in the world of SBA with our beloved co-hosts Tanya Mazurik and Paul Long. I love the show because I always learn a valuable lesson listening to their real-life stories, and the way they deliver it and tie it back to what we do makes the show really entertaining and really fun to watch. Critics are calling it Regis and Kelly meets SBA Connect. Check it out today, and don't forget to subscribe to SBA Today. Work smarter, not harder. That's the new mantra of my guest today. Lane Rhodes joins us in the hot seat. She is a BDO at Live Oak Bank, and she joins us on her home turf in Nashville. And we talk about all things BDO, including how to get more efficient with your time. We also hear what it's like going from being a generalist at a regional shop to a business acquisition specialist at a national shop. Lots of golden nuggets in this one. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. If you're an SBA BDO, you're probably getting multiple calls every week from recruiters telling you about an amazing opportunity at an incredible shop with an open credit box and a strong comp plan. You got to at least hear them out, right? The truth is, most good BDOs can't move because they'd be leaving too much on the table for it to make sense. But alas, all good things must come to an end. When that time comes, how do you decide that critical next step? You need to talk to an industry insider who knows the market inside and out, an advisor that can cut through all the BS and tell you what it's really like to be a BDO at this bank or at that bank. Baker Lewis has 30 years experience, not just in recruiting, but in every aspect of SBA lending. They know the business and they are committed to helping people make the right move, even if that means they don't get a placement fee. If the time has come for you to consider a move, I'd encourage you to partner with an advocate like Baker Lewis, who will help you evaluate the market the way they would if they were making the move. An agent who can help you get the deal you didn't think was possible. Let me tell you folks, anything is possible. Call Baker Lewis.
I am so excited to talk to you because we have never really sat down and chatted.
We have not, no.
I don't know that much about you, but I'm hoping to learn everything.
Well, good. We can learn about each other.
Have you been doing SBA for a while?
I have been doing SBA for about 20 years.
And we're sitting in your home turf, Nashville. The Nagel Conference came into your backyard.
Finally.
Is this their first time doing that?
It is. So I guess if you're familiar with Nagel, they do them all at Hyatt Properties, Grand Hyatt.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yes, they have some association. Nashville just got this beautiful Grand Hyatt. It opened about a year and a half ago.
Oh, this is new.
It's new. And so once we got a Grand Hyatt, apparently we bumped up on the list.
Okay.
Yes.
That's great. I mean, it's a great city. I've been here many times, actually, and I know it's changed like so much. How long have you been here in Nashville?
I've been here my whole life. So, yeah.
So how do you feel about what's happened the last like 15 years with just all of this crazy development, people coming in, and it's just like totally taken off?
Yeah, I mean, from a personal standpoint, I'm not crazy about the growth, to be honest, but from a business standpoint, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But as somebody that drives in this traffic out here, I mean, I used to be able to make it to downtown Nashville in 15 minutes, pull right up on the street and park.
Wow.
Now it takes me 30 minutes and I have to pay some parking garage $35 to park. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, from a personal standpoint, I'm not, I don't know how I feel about paying $35 to park my little Mini Cooper, which I can pull in just about anywhere. But
I would think this is such a good market for SBA.
It is. It's a beautiful market for business entrepreneurship in general. But with that being said, there is a bank popping up on every corner. So it's a competitive market, which is good for business owners as well.
But bank, yes, but an SBA lending expert, those are hard to come by.
They are, but there's becoming more. I mean, for years, I was the only one here in Nashville, and there's definitely more competition in Nashville now.
I was going to say, you're the one that stands out to me, but I do have also my good friend, Glenn, who lives here. And then there's another person. Obviously, there's people in here, but like, would you say you're the best? I'm just kidding.
Well, as far as best goes, I would actually say my boss, Mark Pompeo, sitting down in the lobby is the best. I mean, I've learned so much working under him the past couple of years. He and I were great colleagues when I worked at Wells Fargo together, and I knew he had the Pompeo method, as we called it.
That's crazy.
But now, with him being my boss and being able to see, I mean, he's a systems and process driven mindset. I'm not. I'm fly by my seat of the pants. I'm very relationship driven. And so the side that he's brought to the lending table for me that I didn't have before has just been honestly life changing. I mean, in my, less than 2 years of working with him as my boss, I've learned more than I have my whole career, which is crazy because before coming to Live Oak, I thought I knew everything in SBA lending. I was with CIT, trained by the best of the best, been doing this forever. Nobody can teach me anything. And then I go to work with Mark Pompeo and I've learned just a ton.
Incredible.
So, yeah.
Does any of that have to do with all the efficiency stuff that you were talking about a couple months ago?
Efficiencies, and then just, framing things in a different light. I mean, Mark's all about the messaging and how you tell somebody something. So if you give them bad news, but you make it sound like it's the best thing ever, then they think it's the best thing ever.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So he's all about the messaging and how you phrase things to people.
Okay. Yeah. I should talk to him.
You should.
He's wonderful.
Guest. He's right down in the lobby working away. He's the only, geek down there with the double screens and all his, he even brings his little numbers pad, he's got to have it all. So.
But he's not in this market, right?
He's not, no, but he's my boss, so he came to support me this week.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well,
this is actually his first NAGL conference.
Really?
Yeah, he's been in the industry for forever, but never done a NAGL conference.
Well, the regional ones are more fun.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
I have so much I want to talk to you about. So you've been in this market as an SBA lender for many years. I want to just get into your background, how you kind of started, where you've been, and how you got to this point. So can you give me like a brief history on yourself?
Yeah, so my dad was a banker, and I said I would never go into banking because that's what my dad did. And then I got a scholarship to Belmont University here in town through the finance department, and I was like, okay, finance wasn't what I was thinking, but sure, I'll try it out, and went and got a job while in college in banking. And just really never looked back. And then I was working at SunTrust Bank, doing some SBA lending, but it wasn't necessarily my primary focus. It was just kind of I was a commercial lender and just happened to do a lot of SBA loans. So I was working closely with the SBA office, and I got a call from a recruiter at CIT. And so I don't know if you remember Cindy Mazzetta at CIT. She ran the department there. And she called and said, well, would you come up to Newark, New Jersey, where CIT was headquartered, to interview with us? And I said, you're crazy. There is no way you want me to come up there. I'm 6 months pregnant. Like, you do not want a 6-month pregnant person to come up there to interview. And she was like, well, heck yeah, I do. If you're 6 months pregnant and you're flying up here for an interview, that means you need a job and you're going to work your tail off for me. So long story short, I go up there, I interview with her, love the culture, love the people, just saw a few of my old CIT buddies down in the lobby, and I fell in love with SBA lending. I mean, it was everything that I enjoyed about helping small business owners, all wrapped up into one great program with the flexibility of being able to work at home, about to have a newborn baby at home. And so it was wonderful. I tell my son to this day that, he's a mama's boy because I never took maternity leave with him. Like, I didn't need to. Working from home with him, I literally just kept him in the little cradle swing right next to me in my office while I worked. And it was just a beautiful scenario that CIT gave me the honor of being able to be a great stay-at-home mom and work full-time. So it was a wonderful opportunity.
I mean, yeah, they were early adopters of the remote.
They were. Long before COVID, CIT had everybody working from home.
Yeah, and Newark, New Jersey, it's a place.
It is, yeah. It's New Jersey.
I, worked at ReadyCap for 6 years, so a lot of I was there in the first 6 years of it. So the first year specifically, it was essentially all CIT, and wasn't Newark, I guess. It was just you fly into Newark and you drive a little bit, but every February they'd have us come up. I was like, why are we doing this in February? The sales meeting.
You know what?
It's the
I
worst
feel like
month
they
to do
did the
that.
same thing at CIT because I was always there when it was cold.
Yeah.
And I was like, New Jersey's probably lovely in the spring, but you guys have us coming when it's freezing.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But that was a good group. So you, how long were you there for at CIT?
So I was only there for like a year and a half. And
so you must have joined in 2006 or 7?
Yes, and then 2008 hit, and I got laid off on a phone call with
Oh, boy.
100 of my best friends. But my husband still to this day tells me that was the best thing that ever happened because CIT took such good care of all of us when they laid us all off. I mean, they gave us, a year's worth of benefits all at one time. They paid you out your pensions. I mean, they covered everything. And I had a job lined up right away. In fact, the little bank that's right over here that says Pinnacle on it now, it was a little bank called Avenue Bank at the time.
Oh.
And I was doing their SBA loans for Avenue Bank under CIT's affiliate bank program. And they were the first call I made when I got laid off. And they said, well, why don't you just come over to Avenue Bank and help us start SBA lending? So I went to work for Ron Samuels that started that bank. And they were just phenomenal. So I got a year's worth of salary from CIT and immediately started a job the next day. And
that's crazy.
My husband was like, this is the best thing ever. You have 2 salaries for a year. How'd you
Incredible.
finagle that?
In 08.
In 08 when everybody else was struggling. And I was helping do a startup bank at the time, which, couldn't have picked a worse time to start a bank, but they were doing a good job at it.
And did they get acquired by Pinnacle?
They did. They then got acquired by Pinnacle.
So when you were at CIT though, my sources tell me you were the rising star.
They did. They had a Rising Star Award there. So
what does that mean?
Just one of the, newer hires that year that had really strong production.
So it was based on production?
It was based on production, yeah.
So you were crushing it, basically.
I mean, I was having a lot of real early success over there. There weren't a ton of people doing SBA lending here in Nashville, and I had lots of really good bank contacts. And so I really relied heavily on CIT's bank affiliate model where they went into other banks and did their SBA loans for them.
Okay.
Like most of you, I use outside counsel to close my SBA loans. And when you bring in outside counsel, they become a critical part of the process. So you can't just bring in a firm that dabbles in SBA, you need a firm that focuses in it. Lewis Kappes is one of those firms. Lewis Kappes is a nationwide specialty law firm with decades of SBA experience that can help lenders navigate SBA compliance in the modern landscape. Look, SBA lending is complex and riddled with gray area. You need counsel that can provide clear advice so that you, as the lender, can make an informed decision. You can't just send every deal GP. But compliance is just the baseline. Communication and customer service is also critical, and that's where Lewis Kappes shines. Their SBA team is experienced, professional, and understands not only the legal side, but that these are real-life transactions for real people. So check them out, follow them on LinkedIn, Lewis Kappes, or go to lewiskappes.com.
Being a BDO, best job ever.
It is.
But hard. Not everyone can figure it out. What were you doing that earned you that sort of recognition?
I mean, I wasn't afraid to pick up the phone and call people and just go into their office and ask for the business. I mean, that's a big part of the battle is, not sitting there waiting for the phone to ring. I think a lot of the traditional bankers I work with, they just sit and wait. They're reactive. They wait for somebody to call them. And I've never been one to wait. I'm just not a very patient person. So I just go to where the business is. And I also made really good contacts with the local SBA office here in Nashville, and I do have to brag on them. I think we have the best SBA office. Our 2 ladies, which one of them just retired, and one of them probably will retire before too long, but they train other SBA offices around the country. So they've been doing SBA for a really long time, and they just, embraced having somebody like me that wanted to learn, wanted to get out there. They would go talk to banks that were like, yeah, we're just not going to bite off SBA, and they would say, well, we've got this great girl Lane that she'll come in and she'll help your bank do SBA loans.
Incredible.
And you get to keep all the deposits and still have that client. So I just made really good contacts and resources by, getting out of my office and going to see people.
Let's talk about when you start a new job as a BDO at a new institution. because a lot of BDOs watch this and they want to learn from people like you. What would you have to say in terms of like putting together a 90-day plan? Like, what are you thinking about? How are you prioritizing things in those first 90 days? Like, what comes to mind when you think like, okay, I need to do this, this, and this right away, right off the bat when I start to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really, really good question, because I have moved lenders over the years, and there's no, right or wrong way to do that. But for me, biting it off in small pieces and not trying to be everything to everyone. I mean, as you know, the SBA programs, you can finance a lot. You can do owner-occupied real estate at 100%. You can do business acquisitions. You can do partner buyouts. You can do debt refi. I would try to find one thing and focus in on it and be really, really good at it. And that be my focus. Wasn't trying to be everything to everyone and do every deal that came across my plate as well. So that to me is, hone in on where your strengths are and the deals that you want to do. Don't go out there trying to get everybody to send you every deal that comes across your plate, because more than likely you're not going to do every deal that comes across your plate.
I mean, yeah, if a BDO does 20 deals a year, that's like really good.
Yeah. I mean, for a lot. Now it depends on if that's $20
million deals.
Correct. I mean, if you're doing $500,000 deals, then that's not so great, but
true.
But that's where you need to make sure that you have your messaging. So I have a great partner here in town, Pathway Lending. They're fabulous at working on deals under $500,000. So anytime I get a call for a deal that's under $500,000, I immediately say, I would love to help you, but you know what? I have a better lending partner that's going to give you better service and is better equipped to handle that deal than me.
Right.
So, just not saying yes to everything. I find that a lot of BDOs get really eager and just try to say yes to everything and then hope that something sticks. I probably say more no's than I say yeses, and I'm real big on education. So if I give somebody a no, I want them to know why that's a no, not just, yeah, that's not a deal we're going to do. So I want them to learn something and be educated when I come back to them.
That's great advice. I'm the same way. And that's, when I have to send a deal to someone, like, I always hear yeses, and they're too quick. I'm like, yeah, I don't like that. Because I know
it's not a real yes.
Yeah, if you're saying yes to this based on this, and it's truly a yes, like, you're going to be doing $100 million a year in production. Like, so where's your Lamborghini? Because, like, what's the catch? Did you ever manage BDOs?
I did not. No, that has not been something that I've done through my SBA lending career.
Did you ever think about it?
I have. I've really enjoyed the production side, and I love managing my relationships with my referral sources. I become best friends with them. So that's something that I've really enjoyed. But I have had the ability, at different lenders that I've been at, to be a mentor to people. And I love doing that side of it. Being a mentor and a coach, to me, is better than going over to the managerial side. But I wouldn't be opposed to it in the future. It's just not something I've done quite yet. As we talked about earlier, I've got 2 kids. They're both about to graduate from high school in the near future, and at that point, I'll feel good taking on more responsibility. But honestly, my focus career-wise had been more, I want to be able to provide for my family and be there when they need me. And if you're a manager, then I need to be there for my staff when they need me. Mm-hmm. And so at some point, once my kids are out of the house, I'd love for that dynamic to shift to where I can start being a mama to, some other BDOs and stretch my managerial genes. But until my kids are out of the house, that's kind of my career plan.
But don't you feel like sometimes, like, it's actually the opposite? Like, if you're a BDO, you have less work-life balance because you're like a slave to your deals?
Well, but it's control. Like, I get to control it then.
Right.
If I'm managing a team and then being responsible to a corporation that's needing me to be in corporate meetings and reporting and all that, they're controlling my schedule.
That makes sense.
And if one of my BDOs, like what my fabulous boss is doing downstairs, when I say, hey, I'd love for you to be in Nashville this week with me, he drops everything and comes to Nashville, for me this week. And I want to be able to be that to my team as well.
What do you think your biggest advantage is compared to other BDOs? Because like everyone has strengths and weaknesses. I know I do.
Yeah.
I know only weaknesses are coming to mind right now though. But what do you think your biggest strength is?
I mean, it's more just communication and forming a relationship. The numbers piece of it comes into play. One of my favorite bankers here in Nashville, his favorite saying is, don't let the numbers get in the way of a good story. And I just love that because to me, the story is what's important. So being able to tell that business owner's story to me is what makes me tick and what gets me excited about helping a small business owner. So I wouldn't say that I'm the best at the, numbers piece of it. I can do enough to get by because we've got to all be able to get by. But could I ever be an underwriter? No, that would absolutely drive me crazy. So the relationship side is really what motivates me as a BDO.
What was your best year ever in terms of production?
Probably around 40 million in production is I always kind of hovered, in that 30 to 40 range. But I do have to say, like coming over to Live Oak, I've done much less. But it's different. It's different types of deals that we're doing. So at other lenders before, I've been able to do everything, the debt refi, the 504, ground up construction, all that type of stuff. So coming and honing in my focus to just being an M&A specialist, I've liked being able to focus on just one thing and have a better work-life balance, honestly. I mean, that was part of my motivation, was being able to hone in on that and not have to focus on all the different things that SBA can do.
Well, I'm glad that you said that because 30 to 40 million in your sort of career hovering around there is really, really good. So we got the real deal here today, which is good.
It's good, but like you said, it is hard to have a great work-life balance when you're doing that much because, you've been on the BDO side. You are underwriting, you're closing, like the deal's not done until the money changes hands. So you're involved every step of the way.
Oh, for sure. And, there's a lot of factors at play because I know the busiest year for me that was like the most painful year where I was working 60, 70 hours a week just on deals was a year I did only 22 units for like $18 million. And then I had some years that was like more like 50 million and it was like a walk in the park.
Really?
Because I had a different process and a different team around me. When you look back, what was your evolution of sort of did you have years that were more of a grind than others, like ebbs and flows type of thing?
Definitely. And when you speak to team, I mean, that's what resonates with me. So I had an amazing underwriter at Pinnacle Bank. Shout out to Ryan Muscar. He actually got out of SBA lending, but one of my best years was with Ryan as my teammate. And he would actually go call on the client with me. He would take the deal as soon as I got it in and just kind of run with it. Not to say that I wasn't involved in the process, but having an underwriter that worked as a partner with me like that really was the difference in having a great year and having, a not so great year.
Yeah, well, first it starts with, I guess your sort of credit box. If you're having to kiss a lot of frogs to find that deal, that is more work to get to the deal. So that was one thing because I was doing mostly real estate 7A and we could not do much goodwill at the time. And
Gotcha.
so I was looking at a lot of deals and I didn't even know at the time that it was conservative because I was young. I just thought this is what it was. But it was a conservative box. And so I had to I probably looked at somewhere between 500 and 1,000 deals to close.
My goodness.
It was crazy.
That's a lot of work.
Like a lot. And then you get the deal in and then you have to send it to credit. Well, just as, to send it into credit, it's like, oh, you're missing this, you're missing that. And I'm not saying, send it in all incomplete, but it would be questions.
The back and forth.
Yeah, just to get it into underwriting. Then it's like, okay, so I have to go back to the borrower to answer questions to get it into underwriting. Then it's in underwriting. Now the underwriting starts and then you're asking more questions. So by the time you get to a commitment letter, it's like, oh, you're beaten up and you're putting yourself in the middle. I later moved to like more of like you're kind of a director and you have a team. I have an analyst that helps me on the front end, a loan coordinator that helps me take deals from signed proposal to close, and then a really good underwriter and a really good closer. When you have that team around you, it's like a dream.
It is.
That is the dream of a BDO.
It's teamwork. I mean, you're right. I mean, that was the difference. I should say the closing was also, I mean, deals do blow up in closing from time to time, and time kills deals in closing. So having a good closer that can help orchestrate that is also crucial.
I wanted to tell you something. Would you believe, because we're in your market, and I know I said this on the last episode, but like the person who dropped off this furniture that we rented just closed on an SBA loan.
Nice.
Here in Nashville just a couple weeks ago.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What a small world.
She bought a building because her building was downtown and they were demolishing it, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Sparks.
Cool.
So, yeah, so such a small world.
I love that.
I wanted to ask you, there was a post you put out in the beginning of the year that was really focused on driving efficiencies this year. How's that going, by the way?
It's going really good. I mean, and Mark's been a big catalyst for that. So having somebody that's kind of challenged me in that way of working, smarter, not harder, it's been really good and it's paying off. I probably have the most robust pipeline that I've ever had right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, tell us what are the secrets? I
mean, it's just really focusing in on, having a process and not wasting time. Like if I'm gonna say no to a deal, just say no quickly and move on. And then if it's something that I really feel passionate about doing and feel like it's a good fit for Live Oak, going in all the way on the front end. I mean, we try to make sure we basically get almost everything so we don't have the back and forth like you were talking about when you go to underwriting and then you get 100 questions back. Like I'm essentially fully underwriting the deal before I send it into underwriting. And PPP and all the lovely stimulus checks and ERTC credits have made it really hard for us right now to look at deals because you have to look a lot deeper and look under, the numbers to make sure you're not missing.
That's interesting.
PPP or ERC credits and stuff like that right now.
Oh, I just found an ERC credit. And it's in a P&L in like the middle of the expenses. Like you do have to go expense by expense, line by line.
Yeah, because those numbers may not look as great as they were if they got $500,000 in.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, employee retention credit. So.
I like it. I like it. I mean, a BDO is the reason it's a hard job. The two things stand out for me. One is really high highs and really low lows. It's like an emotional roller coaster. You have to like be, mentally okay to have longevity in this. But the other one is you have to be good at sales. You have to be good dealing with communication with people, and you have to be good at numbers. And like you just said, if you're having to underwrite the deal and look at all those numbers, that's one thing. But then you also got to go out there and sell.
Yeah. It's a lot of hats to wear.
It is. Yeah, and you got to wear that.
But I like hats, so it's all good.
I like it. I like getting in there and trying to figure out the deal. I mean, that is fun.
It is. It's like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, and then you get the story and you put it all together. So is there something you were doing prior to kind of this, journey into efficiency that you are no longer doing? Or any big changes that come to mind? Yeah,
so I was probably proactively trying to go after more than I needed to. I was trying to attend every networking event here in Nashville, go to every conference, work with every business broker out there. And I've now come to the realization that, I don't have to get deals from every single person. Like I've really honed in on the business brokers I want to work with that are good partners. And, it's not to say that I won't get a deal or two from, some of the other ones that are out there, but I don't need to be present at every one of their meetings and trying to, chase after deals that at the end of the day are not really going to be great deals for Live Oak Bank.
I get what you're saying. It's like this need to want to be everywhere and be connected to everyone, have almost like this exhaustive approach
Yeah.
to like owning your market, which is like admirable. I mean, I think that's awesome. But yeah, that's a lot.
I rolled off of a lot of boards. I mean, that was one thing like throughout my career that has served me well is like being on a lot of community boards and being involved. But at the end of the day, you know, like it's time consuming and it takes up a lot. So really focusing in on having that better work-life balance. I think having 2 kids that, you know, one's graduating from high school this year and then one's right behind them, I had to figure out a better way so that I could be more involved with them and still do a really great job at my job and not do as much community service stuff. So I had to start saying no to some things.
I mean, you've built a network of relationships over the years, and I'm sure there's some sort of compounding effect from that where you're getting referrals. Even if you stayed home for the rest of your life, you're going to get deals.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, that has served me well of just being here in Nashville, you know, and not moving markets and putting down roots. And I don't see myself going anywhere anytime soon.
Have you been able to outsource any tasks of like, do you have any sort of sales assistant or anything like that?
No, we, you know, kind of do it all over here at Live Oak. So we, you know, we have a great marketing team at the bank, but like we're doing our own marketing, you know, the social media posts and that sort of thing. And, you know, as far as like when we get the deal in, like I'm the one that's emailing the client their package and checking off my list of all the things as they come in. And, you know, even the analyst part of it, like I'm doing that piece before I send it off to underwriting. We don't have like a team of analysts that we send it to before we get it ready to send it.
So it's just like BDO, underwriter, closer type of thing.
Correct.
What about closing then? How are you pretty hands off? Do you get sucked into these closings? How does it work there?
I like to be more involved. Live Oak does a really good job of me not having to be as involved. So historically, I've always actually physically attended my closings, and I don't have to do that now at Live Oak. But honestly, I kind of liked that piece of it. You know, you go through all that work on an SBA loan, and that's the fun part is being able to celebrate at the closing. But thanks to DocuSign and, you know, virtual closings now, we just email a loan package out, and
that's crazy.
Voila, they get signed, and there's no big attorney table any longer with, you know, all those SBA loan docs that we're signing and scanning over.
Well, don't they have to do it? I don't want to get super technical here, but like if there's real estate involved, do they have to do that in person?
To sign a deed of trust and stuff, but yeah.
You can send a mobile notary.
They normally will go to a title office and do that if there's real estate involved,
And that's also the thing about like focusing on your own backyard, because a lot of BDOs, including myself, who are national and have been national, and Pinnacle was national too, right?
No, Pinnacle's a regional bank.
Regional, okay.
Yeah.
So is this your first time going national?
No, CIT.
No, CIT was national. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, when you're but I guess CIT back then it was different. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, we have LinkedIn, we have YouTube, we have podcasts, we have like national conferences and stuff. So I've been going to market nationwide, and that's just I just am a nationwide BDO. Like 30% maybe I'm in Florida where I live.
Gotcha.
And even there, it's all around Florida. But
which is a big state.
It's a big state, but you're having a focus here in the Nashville area. That gives you an advantage. Like I feel like you have almost like there's a fortress around Nashville that you've built, because if you want to come in here from outside, like, don't you have like home court advantage?
I mean, I definitely would say that there's something to that. You know, I have my trusted advisors here. You know, if somebody's wanting to do a business acquisition, like I can get them the right attorney, the CPA, like people that I've worked with for the last, 20 to 30 years throughout my career, so we can build a nice little team. But that's not to say that somebody from out of state can't, come in and do something similar. Where I really feel I have advantages, the brokers that I work with and that trust that I've established with them over the years and getting the first look at the deal. So then when I have a buyer, that broker is willing to, probably listen to my buyer over some others because they have confidence that I can get the deal closed. If I'm bringing the buyer to the table, they know it's gonna close.
Well, that's what it's all about, right? Is that execution. A lot of folks are putting salespeople out into the market that are a little greener. We've all started there. We've been there.
We've all been there. I mean, that was me at CIT. So you have to learn somewhere.
Exactly. But the value that comes from someone who can get the deal across the finish line because they've done it time and time again, it's hard to put a price tag on that. Yeah. These deals don't automatically close. I don't know.
They don't, and like you were saying, you have to be all those different things that you outline. But, I think psychiatrist is a big part of that as well. The mental component. I can't tell you how many deals where I've had a buyer want to walk away, or I've had a seller want to walk away, and I've had conversations with them that, have kind of gotten the deal back on track because they're, either over analyzing or thinking about things that they don't need to be thinking about. There's always risk going into these transactions on both sides, for the buyer and for the seller. Mm-hmm. And so kind of being that voice of reason for people and having done it, that's one of the questions I get. Well, you've been doing business acquisition financing for 20 years. How many of these have you seen go bad or go sideways? And I mean, knock on wood, very, very few of them. If you both go into it with a level of trust and, open eyes, it's very rare that these things go bad. But, that we are in the business of risk. So these transactions do not come without it. And that's what I tell buyers going into it. I mean, that's oftentimes I have buyers that are like trying to eliminate all the risk. And I'm like, you're not set up to be a successful business owner if you're trying to eliminate all of the risk.
Very true.
Because the successful business owners I see are the ones that are willing to take a risk.
Yes, that's really interesting. I'm curious, have you noticed a shift in the pool of buyers who are buying businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it too. I mean, everybody's a searcher today, and they're all part of the ETA. Walker Diebold in his beautiful book, Buy Then Build, has totally changed the landscape over the last 4 to 5 years, I would say, with people looking to buy businesses. It's the hot, trendy new thing to do right now. So we've definitely seen a shift in, people that never probably would have thought of buying a business before, mm-hmm. are being told, these people were being sold 5 years ago, when real estate markets were going crazy, of go invest in real estate. But right now they're telling people how to buy and, grow a business to sell it and flip it, unlike, the real estate that people were flipping 5 years ago.
Which is hard, by the way. Running a business coming from the mentality of, hey, I'm not in business currently, but I just read this book.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to go do it.
And now I'm an expert in it.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. But I mean, to me, it can be a lot more lucrative and a lot more rewarding than flipping a piece of real estate.
How do you think this shift, because I'm seeing it too. I will say, like, the vast majority of people buying businesses, they're not coming up from the industry. They're coming in from, I shouldn't say the vast majority, but I would say a lot of my buyers are like, they just got laid off of tech, or they're coming from Procter & Gamble management program or whatever, or maybe an MBA.
Or bankers. I can't tell you how many bankers I've seen apply for SBA loans recently.
Just had lunch with a middle market banker the other day who is looking at it. There's private equity, investment banking people, obviously. But, back in the day, I used to, maybe do a loan for an HVAC guy buying an HVAC business. You'll never see that.
Yeah. No, now you got, somebody wanting to do a roll-up of an HVAC business, and they've never owned or operated an HVAC business.
Don't get me started.
And they don't want to be the guy repairing an HVAC. They want to just be...
They want to be business people.
Correct.
So how do you think that shift is going to impact our industry? Because now you have buyers who don't have industry experience. I feel like we have always looked for industry experience.
Yeah.
But these sort of guidelines are changing, I feel.
They're changing, but at the end of the day, I mean, the fundamentals of what we look at looking at a deal don't change. So, I've never told somebody that if they're going into a specific industry that they really need to have direct industry experience. It's always been, that SBA lingo of transferable skills. Mm-hmm. And so I think, you still have to be smart in how you look at it, there's a lot more people, like you said, that want to be business owners now, but not everybody needs to be a business owner. I mean, like my guy that I mentioned that was, trying to eliminate every single thing that could go wrong in the deal, I finally had to tell him, this isn't for you. If you're trying to eliminate, like, you're never going to execute on an LOI and move forward with closing a deal if you try to eliminate every piece of risk, because you can't. So there's some people you're just going to have to say no to because they don't have the skill set and they don't have the background to be a business owner.
There's real risk. I say that all the time. And a lot of folks will approach me who are interested in buying a business, who are like, some of the first questions they're asking is how do they protect themselves from the downside risk?
I don't want to pledge my house.
I want to shield my assets.
Correct.
I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, if that's immediately, like you said, if that's what you're going, if that's the mindset you have going into it, you're probably not going to be successful at aggressively growing that business. Now, you might be buying yourself a job from corporate, like you mentioned, the individuals, which historically I feel like that's probably been a lot of what we've done. It's somebody that got laid off from a corporate job. Mm-hmm. And instead of going back to work for corporate, they went and bought a business and they're essentially buying themselves a job. Yep. I feel like our buyers nowadays aren't buying themselves a job. They're truly buying businesses to flip them and grow them and move on to their next M&A play.
Does that fit into SBA? Because I feel like traditionally, if somebody came to us and said, hey, I want to flip a business, we would be turned off as an SBA lender.
I think we would, but I think the SBA needs to change how they look at it. Because to me, the SBA program is a tool for economic growth. Mm-hmm. If they're growing and building these businesses and adding employees, and then maybe the way they sell that business and they moved over to the next thing is because they sell it and they empower their manager mm-hmm. that they trained and hired to buy the business from them, that's accomplishing the SBA's goal of spurring economic development. So I think the SBA, and I think they have. I think through a lot of the recent SOP changes, we've kind of changed the way that we've looked at SBA lending. Obviously larger deal size has kind of helped that some, but getting away with some of the personal resource tests and things like that have also helped. I don't think SBA would ever want to finance true investment businesses for people, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about somebody buying a company, really delving into the business model, growing that business, and then selling it and moving on to their next.
Yeah, and so growth, that's job creation.
Correct.
A lot of the times they're professionalizing the company, adding certain softwares and things like that will ultimately make it more transferable and probably make that business have a longer likelihood that it will be around for a long time.
Correct.
So that is all good stuff. I mean, I think we are in this kind of really pivotal moment for the SBA industry, which I love the industry. I'm obsessed with it. I made a podcast about it.
There we go.
But it is a point of sort of change. We're kind of going down this new path now, and the SBA has kind of forced us down that path with these changes, and a lot of people are fighting it.
There's good and bad, but I feel like for the most part, as the program's evolved, it's only helped, grow small business. And small business is still such a key part of our economies that, I mean, they can't do away with it at this point.
Right?
I mean, yeah, they can't just scrap it. I know a lot of the word on the street is, the government may try to, do direct lending themselves. I think that would be a big, problem for the SBA. I mean, I think we saw how well they administered some of the programs under COVID relief, and a lot of those problems were from the government not being equipped to manage that process. I mean, I think the government's the first or the last to update technology and that sort of thing, whereas on the banking side, we're having to constantly stay up to date on technology. But you can't do away with these programs at this point in time. They're here to stay.
No, I agree.
They've gone smaller too. I mean, so, some of the changes haven't been just to benefit the individuals like we're talking about that are going upstream and buying bigger
yeah.
businesses. A lot of the changes recently with, you know, the new small dollar SBA loans is really trying to help get dollars in the hands of business owners faster on loans under $500,000. So we're about to roll out, you know, an online application through Live Oak that's going to do just that, and hopefully be able to, you know, from application to funding, be able to give people loans within a matter of days, not weeks and months anymore, utilizing this new small dollar that SBA has put in there. So they're not just growing and trying to help, you know, the bigger fish. They're trying to help the smaller fish as well.
Yeah, and it's already working because the average loan has been coming down,
Yeah.
you know, the last couple of years. So absolutely. I want to get back to the topic of BDO, and then I want to wrap it up here. But I have a game.
Oh,
Fill in the blank. Being a BDO is like blank.
being a BDO is like a fun dance party every day.
Care to explain?
You know, every day is a party for me. I just, you know, I get to work with amazing clients, and I get to work with great people at Live Oak. So it's a fun
Yeah.
atmosphere, and something that I just truly love doing.
It is the best job in the world.
It
right?
is. It really is.
Every day is different.
Yeah.
You get to make an impact, and we're just lucky to be able to do this.
Very blessed.
Yeah. Good. Well, Lane, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank
This was
you
a
for
pleasure.
having me. This has been so much fun.
Awesome.
All right, that's it for this week. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode of The Art of SBA Lending. And if you have any feedback or suggestions, email me at ray@artofsba.com. Until next time, ta-ta.